employer's requirement for Ontario's PNP program is not straightforward. Whether you are an employer who is trying to help out an employee getting their permanent residency in Canada, or whether you are an employer who is trying to hire someone from other provinces or outside Canada, or whether you are an employee who wants to fact check their employer before filing the EOI with the province of Ontario, this video is for you. And in this video, I'm going to go through the employer's part of the OINP job offer related streams, and will also help you to fill out the employer form so you know exactly what to expect from this form. While going through all these, I am going to provide tons of important information, so please make sure that you don't skip the video and watch it till the end. For those who are new, hi, I am Raj, a data enthusiast and a community proclaimed guide for Canadian immigration. If you are interested in watching these kind of videos, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. So let's get started. If you are in Ontario and struggling to score that high CRS points for getting a permanent residency through the federal express entry system, you might be exploring one of these pathways, which includes the job offer foreign workers streams, job offer international student stream, or job offer in-demand skills streams. In any of these job offer related streams, you need the employer's support. And when I say employer's support, I do not mean LMIA, I mean the employer's support as in employer form. And why is this special and different than LMIA? Because as a business in Ontario, a business has a privilege to hire a foreign worker, and in return, Ontario government will make sure to give them provincial nomination and eventually help them with PR, because they are helping with the labor retention in Ontario. Now, before you start making assumptions around these things, let's try to understand the employer's requirement and if your employer fulfills those requirements or not. Employer requirements for all these streams are generally divided into following groups, which includes the general requirements, the revenue requirements, the full-time employee requirements, and finally the employer form. Employer requirement changes a bit depending on the stream you choose for PNP, and generally to be eligible for these requirements, an employer need to make sure that their business is active since last 3 years. They should have at least one premises in Ontario. They should meet the fiscal year revenue requirement, which is $1 million if they are in GTA and more than $500,000 if they are outside GTA or where the employee works or their reports is outside GTA. There is also work location requirements in terms of the amount of employees a company should have, which is that a company should have a minimum of 5 full-time employees who are PR or citizen if the work location is inside GTA, and if the work location is outside GTA, then the company should have a minimum of 3 employees full-time PR or citizen in that particular location. Other than these, if they are hiring a candidate from outside the province or outside Canada, they need to show significant recruitment efforts and prove that they were not able to hire a domestic candidate first. And remember, these does not have to be an LMIA offers, but Ontario wants to make sure that the domestic recruitment efforts are carried out first before trying outside province. As OINP is designed to assist employer in fulfilling the position when they are not able to hire or recruit employees domestically and they have a potential candidate outside province or outside Canada. So recruitment efforts is not needed for students in Ontario turning into PGWP and for the open work permit holders who are already working in Ontario. Apart from these, the Ontario can also ask for additional documentation after the application submission to make sure that the information provided is true. And to do that, they may request you to provide documentation to prove that the business is in continuous operation since last 3 years, or to prove that the place of the business in Ontario exists, to make sure that the business meets the minimum gross annual revenue requirements, or to check if a business has at least 3 to 5 full-time employees as mentioned in the form, or to make sure that they made efforts to hire a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident in Ontario if required, which is not applicable for international student stream, and the foreign workers stream if the person is already working in Ontario. Now let's take a look at the employer form. Okay, so here in this case, I have already downloaded the form. Please make sure to stay with me till I finish this form, as I might be answering all your questions about this form as a part of this video. So let's get started. Here, the biggest section is the section A, which is for the employer's information. Okay, and the first part in this information is the general business information, in which you need to provide the legal name of the employer. The operating name here could be different than the legal name. Sometimes the business name is a number, as an Ontario number, but the operating name could be the name of the restaurant or something like that. So make sure to use the operating name if it's different than the business name. We'll put down the address of the business, and please make sure that this address is supposed to be the head office location. Now here, in case if the employee is going to work at the head office location, you can say yes, or you can say no if the employee is not going to work at the head office location. If the employee is not going to work at the head office location, then you will have to provide the address where the employee is going to report or going to work. But I'm going to say yes in this case, and I'm not going to fill out this information, but you can fill out the new address if it's needed. Okay, let's continue. Is this location in the GTA or not? Now here, this is related to the points which the applicant is going to get depending on the answer here. If the location is not in GTA, they might be getting some extra points. If the location is in GTA, they might be getting 0 points for it. Because the location is Toronto, I'll just say yes here in this case. The number of full-time employees who are Canadian citizen or PR who work at this particular location. Now this goes hand in hand for both situations. If the person is working in the head office location, then the question itself is asking how many employees who are Canadian citizen or PR are working in the head office location. Whereas if the employee is working at a different location, then in that case, this question is asking the number of full-time employees who are Canadian citizen or PR working at that particular location, not the head office location. Okay. Also, you have to make sure to not include or count the employee or the applicant who is applying for this certificate of nomination. So if you have total 6 employees working in that particular branch or the location, and out of that you are referring to this one person, do not include them basically. So just say 5 in this case. Next is the mailing address and the contact information of the employer. If it's the same as the address which you have provided, you can say it's same. If you have other information, you can fill it out here. For example, the employer's website or the general inquiry email where you would want to receive the email in case OINP wants to ask any questions. Provide it here, or else just go to the next page. As you can see, it has popped in for not entering the phone number. Similarly, if you are missing out any details, it will right away call it out. So make sure that you fill out all the information before going to the next page. And as you can see, it is not going to reveal the next page until you fill out all the information on the current page. The next part of section A is the employer's revenue and structure related information. Here we have to fill in the establishment date or the date when the business was incorporated. This could be many years before or could be very recent. Then you will have to provide the incorporation or the registration number, and finally the CRA business number. You'll also have to mention here the legal structure of the employer, whether they are incorporated in Ontario, whether they have a limited liability partnership, whether they have sole proprietorship, or whether they are extra provincially registered in Ontario. Basically, if they are federally incorporated company or company which is registered somewhere else but also in Ontario. So I'll just say incorporated in Ontario for the sake of ease. It's just a selection. You don't have to worry much about it. And the employer, of course, would know the information about it. Has your business been amalgamated in last 3 years? If you don't know what amalgamation means, then just click on the eye icon here. It will provide the information. Just say no here for the sake of simplicity. Now we have to mention the number of years in active business prior to the date of this application submission. This question is important because if the business is less than 3 years old, then the employer is not eligible to sponsor this form. But let's say if the employer is more than 3 years old in the business, then they can. So I'll just say more than 3 years old just to make it easy. The next part is the gross revenue of the most recently completed fiscal year. Now the fiscal year of an employer could be different depending on the business style. The start date and the end date of the fiscal year is also something which you have to mention. But during that fiscal year, if the employer's revenue is more than $500,000 and the employer is outside GTA, then they are eligible. Again, if they are inside GTA, they need a revenue of more than $1 million. Okay. So because we have mentioned that the business is inside GTA, we are just saying that it's $1 million above. And the fiscal year, I'll just provide the information here and we'll go to the next section. So part 3 of section A includes the employer's profile information, which means something related to the business itself. Let's look at it. Does the employer economic sector falls into the ICT or advanced manufacturing? If it does, just say yes or say no. I'll just say no in this case. Identify the employer's economic sector. So here it's a drop down, which I'll just say it's a food industry for manufacturing. And here you'll have to spend some good amount of time to describe the business, especially the goods and the services offered and the business activities that are being carried out as a part of the business. If it's a manufacturing unit, you'll have to provide what the output of that manufacturing site is, and what are the business activities they conduct. Similarly, if it's a restaurant, you can provide the information around that. If you need any further help in filling this information out, please feel free to reach out to me. You can avail my services. Something just to fill up because it's a compulsory field, so make sure to fill it up and don't make any mistakes here, because this is how you show what the business is all about. The next thing is the number of full-time employees working in all the location. Now here, if you have many branches including the head office location, then you have to mention the number of full-time employees working in all the locations. The number of business locations operating in Ontario. Let's say we have 3 different locations, so I'll just say 3 here. We'll go to the next part of this section, which is continuing. Here we have to provide the regulatory compliance information. Does the business currently have any outstanding orders? This is very specific to the legal matters. Basically, the Employee Standards Act 2000, which is any issues with the employee-employer relationship, or the Health and Safety Act issues. If there are any, then you have to say yes. If there are no, then just say no. If you say yes, do not submit your application as your business does not qualify. As you can see, if you say yes, it just tells you right away that your business does not qualify, so no use in filling out this form. If you say no, then of course you are still eligible and you can continue. The next part is the employer's authorized signing official information. Let's say there is someone else in your business who is going to sign the documentation, maybe a manager or someone on your behalf, and you don't have time to do it yourself. Then in that case, just provide their information. If it's literally the owner of the business, then just provide their information once again. And finally, if the contact person of this particular employer is different than the signing officer, then you can provide their name. If it's same as the signing officer, then just tick this box and it will take care of it. Now we are into the next section of this employer form, which is the employment position information. Why you need this position, what is the importance of this position for the business, so on. So let's start looking into it. First part is the previous application. Just to understand, has the business submitted any other application to the OINP in last 12 months? If you are helping out other applicants who are working for your company to get the PNP, you'll have to say yes in that case and provide information around it. But just to keep the application simple, I'm just going to say no here. The job offer related information now. You have to provide the information about the employee to whom you are providing the job offer, and also something related to the wages and the work itself. So we'll just provide some information here. How many weeks of work per calendar, basically trying to say if it's a full-time job which consists of 52 weeks, or if it's a seasonal job or not. Okay. Is the wage subject to the collective agreement? If you are supposed to provide a wage to the employee depending on some national criterias or some provincial criterias, then just say yes. What happens in this case is that they don't need to meet the minimum threshold for a particular job title if it's a collective agreement. But if they don't, then they have to meet minimum wage criteria for that particular job and based on the stream itself. So I'll just say no here for the sake of simplicity. Is the position being offered to the employee a permanent and full-time, which is also a requirement? So you have to say yes. If it's no, then of course that creates a different perception and this becomes useless. Is employee currently working for the business? Now this is a good question, because now it's checking whether they are already working for the business or you are just given the offer letter. If they are recruited in the same outlined position, or if they're into a different position and you are promoting them or something like that for this particular position, and if it's a no, you can select, and if it's no, then you can specify that hey, it's just a job offer we are providing to them. So I'll just say yes for now, and if you say yes, then you'll have to provide the information around what was their start date, what is their current hourly wage, how much they are making, and so on. If it's for a different position, then you have to provide the information about what position it is, and if it's a no, then provide like what offer letter you are providing them, right? So I'll just say yes for now. And here you will have to provide the main roles and duties of the position that is being offered to the employee, whether you are currently already working with the employer or whether it's a different position that is being offered to you with the same employer, or whether it's a completely new employer offering a position. The job duties and the roles will obviously be there in the offer letter, so just use that information and paste it here. And so that should be it. The next part, please don't forget, this line is very much hidden. It says, please explain why the position is urgently necessary to the business. Include in your explanation how the position aligns with your existing business activity and why it is required to fill. Now here in this case, whatever the job is, you don't have to show any proof saying that hey, we tried hiring or whatever. This is only asking about the role and not the person themselves. So you'll have to make sure what you are adding here is related to the role itself. What I would do in this case is to show the importance of the role for the business to grow. For example, if it's a restaurant and you need the night shift worker to prepare the meals for the next day, then you can literally just write that there is a shortage of people who would want to work at night, and this position is really important to carry out the business activities and so on, right? So you can just provide all the details here. As I said, if you need any other help in writing these content out, please feel free to reach out to me. The next piece is, does the employee or any of their family member hold any equity in the business? If they are, then probably it makes you an ineligible employer. So you'll have to say no here. Again, the section B is continued here. The next part here is if it's a regulated profession or not. If you are hiring a nurse or a doctor or a tradesperson, then it becomes a regulated profession. If they require a license, then you have to say yes. And provide some information around this, that if they have the certification and stuff like that. Mostly, just to keep it simple, I'm just going to say no here. If an LMIA is issued for this particular employee, if you have, it's not needed, as I said earlier in the video. But if you have already issued at this employee an LMIA, then you have to say yes. Otherwise, just say no. Many people are there on their closed work permit already working on an LMIA with an Ontario employer. Yes, you are eligible for this particular job offer related streams, and all you have to do is just fill out this form with the help of your employer and select yes in this case and provide the information around it. But I'm just going to say no for the sake of simplicity. And the status of the employee. Now here, depending on the status of the employee, you'll have to fill out different sections. Basically, if you are already authorized to work in Ontario, or if you're applying through the international student stream, then you do not need to fill out the section C, which is needed for the people who are coming from the other Canadian province or outside Canada, because section C is all about filling out the details on why you had to hire someone from outside Ontario and what are the recruitment efforts. So just to complete the full employer form details, I'm going to go to the section C and then we'll go to the section D afterwards. Section C is all about, as I said, recruitment summary. Here you are allowed to provide if you have made any attempt to fill the position with a Canadian citizen or a PR prior to offering this position. So not only just that the people living in Ontario, but you also have to make sure that you are prioritizing to hire someone who is a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, even if they are outside Ontario. So you'll have to say yes, because if you say no, then it becomes questionable again. And the number of individuals that applied for this position being offered, if you are hiring, so let's say there are 50 people who applied for this job, and number of days the business formally advertised. So you'll have to show how you advertised, where you advertised, what were the interview processes like, everything here, right? So let's say it was advertised for 20 days. Describe the job advertising and recruitment efforts. Here you'll have to provide a lot more information. So again, if you need help, please feel free to reach out. But you'll have to provide all the information, including but not limited to the type and the location of the job advertisements, the time frames during which you were providing the advertisements, the content of the advertisement itself, and the details and the results of the summary. So a lot more information, including the summary of the interviews too, just so that it can convince the Ontario immigration officer that, hey, this complete situation is genuine 100%, and that we have no questions from the employer. If they have questions, they will ask for more documents. So please make sure to fill out this properly. Okay, so just fill out something here explaining why your recruitment effort was unsuccessful in hiring a Canadian citizen or PR for position being offered to the employee, right? Here you will have to explain what is the gap between hiring a Canadian citizen or a PR versus hiring this particular temporary worker or hiring someone from a completely different country. And you'll have to say it could be any reason. It could be money, it could be the skills gap, it could be the situation where someone does not want to work with you even if they meet the criteria. You'll have to provide all that details here. Similarly, even if you need my help in doing all these things, I might need a lot more information from you. So please make sure that you are prepared before reaching out to me, okay? We'll go to the next section here. Section D. Now that you have completed section C, section D is applicable to everyone, whether you are applying from an international student stream or whether you are already working for that employer or whether you are outside Canada or outside province, okay? So it's someone assisting you with the application to complete the form. If you want to hire a representative, it's not about like taking help from someone like me. If you are hiring a representative to represent your application, then you can say yes, and then you can provide more details about them, just so that they can have access to the application. For someone like me, I just help filling it out, and I don't really take the authority of the application itself, so you have complete transparency. Will the employer or have you paid this person? So if you're not hiring anyone, you're not obviously not going to pay anyone. If you have received assistance from an authorized representative, as I said, that if you want someone to represent your application, you have to provide their details. Just for the simplicity, I'm going to say no, and we'll go to the next section. Here all we have to do is just put the information about the signing officer for whom we have provided the details earlier, and sign the application. As if you don't know about this, if you'll click on I, it will say that it needs the handwritten signature. So you'll have to print out this whole application form, sign it, and then scan the form again to upload if needed. Again, you'll have to provide the date when this application was signed. So please make sure to provide the same date. You can select it here, or you can also literally print it and then write it down with your own hands, and that should work. Finally, you can click on review the summary. Here you can see the complete form from top to bottom. That will make sure that hey, you have not missed out on any information. If you have, you can always click on go back to the form and go back. Finally, you can save this form. You can print the summary pages. That way you have the complete form with you, sign it, hand it over to the employee or the applicant who are going to apply. Or you can choose not to give it to the applicant and upload it yourself, because it contains a lot of business information and you might not feel comfortable giving it to the employee. You can keep it to yourself, filled form, and when it comes to uploading this document, you can always request for the information or the credentials to upload it, or jointly do it with the applicant. Okay, so now if you have already finished this employer form but yet to fill out the expression of interest with the province of Ontario, please check out this video. I have given you a step-by-step details on how to fill out the expression of interest. It will only take you a few minutes to do it, and it's completely free. So thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.